Just went into season 5.
Hey.
In episode 1 of season 5, Joe Cipriano was kind enough to be my 100th guest on the podcast. And he has some great insight into things that you deal with in our industry. He's on that Mount Rushmore of people. And for him to have had dark times that he had to get through too, and to hear how he got through it, and to still be where he is now, and to be the kind person that he is, it was very inspiring. Very inspiring.
George the Tech.
Well, hey, everybody, George the Tech. This is a very different kind of setup. We're doing this one on the road. And the reason we're on the road is we've been at VO Atlanta for the last 4 or 5 days. And here with me is a new friend. He stayed with me here in the house. He has his own podcast he's going to tell you about as well. Rob, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, George.
Good to see you.
First of all, thank you so much for opening your rented home to strangers to stay with you. It was a really cool experience to have some time with you here, to grow a friendship, then also just be able to just have a place away from all of the noise and the chaos. Yeah, exactly.
And the air conditioning.
Yeah.
All right? When you're stuck in a building for 4 days with air conditioning.
Frozen solid,
It can be a lot. Even if you're not cold, it takes all the humidity out of the air, right? We're here for VO Atlanta. I understand this is your first time?
This is my second time.
Second time, okay, excellent.
Yeah, second year, but I was what they called the first contact guide, so I was able to actually help out folks that it was their first time here.
And who did you guide?
A person, I had a guy from Florida, Robert Starling, great guy.
Robert, I met him. He's a good dude.
He's a great guy. And then Max Hersfeld, who's from California. It was their first time here. And it was a great program to be a buddy for the first time folks who maybe not know how to navigate.
It can feel overwhelming.
Yeah,
right?
there's 1,000 people there. So it was really cool to be that for someone for their first time here. And then again, grow more bonds, grow more friendships. So it was great.
That's great, man. I'm glad you could do that.
Yeah.
What contrasted this event to the last time you came? Anything stand out?
Just for what I was doing last year, again, my first year, I made sure every hour was crammed with something. If it was a breakout, to break. And it was exhausting. Yeah. And this year, I made sure I took like an hour in between things, maybe 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's the stuff that happens in between those breakout sessions that can be some of the most valuable stuff. Being able to connect with people in between, be able to build those
That's
bonds.
definitely true for me, man. Colliding with people in the hallways. It's nonstop. It's a lot of fun.
And if you don't have that pressure on yourself, I got to get to this thing, it allows you to breathe and to soak in the information you've been getting. So that was my big difference this year, concentrating more on building those friendships, being more present as opposed to schedule driven.
That's really smart. I've done trade shows and other events where I try to schedule too much and I always regret it. So I think that's a really good approach.
Yeah.
You drove in, I flew in. Where did you come from? How long you been there? And what the hell do you do over there?
I came up from Augusta, Georgia, so 2.5 hours straight up I-20. I am a full-time voice actor. I've got a studio at the house, working in commercial, promo, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, like we all do. But I've been there pretty much my entire life. Born and raised in Augusta, lived in the Southeast most of my life. That's home. I'm my mom's sole caregiver. She's 86. And so being close to her is very important. I've got a lovely wife, Valerie, and my kids, Jacob and Jeremy, but they're adults now. One's 31. He lives in England, and the other one is 28-9, and he lives upstairs at the house.
World we live in now.
Right. But it's cool that they're supporting what I'm doing, and they're excited about me coming here and have the opportunity to learn more and to make more connections, to do this really cool creative job that we do.
So your background, I know a little bit about you, but your background is one that's somewhat of a common story, I think, with voiceover. Is
old radio
there was
guy.
some radio in the background, right?
Yeah.
When did you get your first radio?
So I started in radio at 15 while I was still in high school.
I was just listening to Joe Cipriano's bio, and it's the same.
Yeah.
He started at 16. Yep.
Yeah. I was still.
You knew you wanted to do it, though.
Yeah, I was a freshman in high school, and of course, people would be like, "Oh, you got a great voice. You got a great voice," and which radio, you can have a great voice and not know exactly what to do with it and get by, which is completely different from VO. But yeah, I just fell in love with the entertainment side of it, that you could play these characters on the air, that you could build these worlds, that you're a part of people's lives just from them hearing you, and to be able to entertain them. And I just got the bug. And then I moved into like doing theater. I got into television, doing commercial production and things like that. And that's pretty much what my life was for, 35 something years before the industry changed.
Yeah.
Pushed a lot of people out all at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so trying to reinvent myself, I ended up doing sales for about 10 years.
Sure.
And then that kind of went away. And my wife was like, you should get back to what you love. And so
Excellent.
Here I am.
Great having a supportive partner that tells you it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Go do that thing.
Okay.
It's what you want to do. You should be doing it.
Exactly.
GTT. Not sure if your studio's audio sounds competitive? A sound check by George the Tech removes all doubts and explains the next steps. Audiobooks, podcasts, voiceovers. For content creators, we do it all. New customers get 20% off their first service with a coupon code on your screen.
George the Tech.
You have a podcast, and at some point, I'm going to guest on that podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
When the time is right. Tell us a little about it. I know it's called Chewing the Fat, and that's about all I know, and the cool logo.
Yeah.
Other than that,
yeah, Chewing the Fat is a mental health and positivity podcast. I launched it in 2021. We were all locked down for COVID, and I was dealing with depression and anxiety, and I felt there were other people that were dealing with that too. You would see it on the news, or other people dealing with those aspects of it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to create something to maybe bring a little light into the world.
No.
People could hear and realize that everybody's going through this. So maybe it's not as dark as I think it is. And truly the impetus of the podcast was a quote from J.R.R. Tolkien in The Hobbit, when Gandalf is choosing the hobbits to go on this quest.
Right.
And it's like, I believe it is the small everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay, small acts of kindness and love.
Oh, yeah.
And so
that's a beautiful quote. What an inspiration to start a podcast.
Yeah, and that's really what drove me to start this, is like, what are other people doing to keep the darkness at bay? So,
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's a question I ask my guests. Hey, well, as an old radio guy, it's set up in like 3 segments like a radio show. And that's the question I ask every guest is, what do you do to keep the darkness at bay? And that allows them to talk about their dark times and then how they have made it through, so that they can be a light to other folks, so that they can learn. Maybe somebody's dealing with something and it's not working, but hearing somebody else give a suggestion of what to try, maybe that gets them through that period. So,
wow. Well, I'm going to have a hanky nearby when I tell some of these stories.
Yeah.
But it's going to be great. I can't wait to be on it.
Yeah, and I appreciate
how many
you.
Episodes now?
100 episode. Just went into season 5.
Hey.
In episode 1 of season 5, Joe Cipriano.
Speaking of Joe,
it's
hard not to mention radio and Joe and not in the same breath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was kind enough to be my 100th guest on the podcast, and he has some great insight into things that you deal with in our industry. He's on that Mount Rushmore of people. And for him to have had dark times that he had to get through too, and to hear how he got through it, and to still be where he is now, and to be the kind person that he is, it was very inspiring. Inspiring.
I listened to the second half of his autobiography audio in the car as I drove across North Carolina, and it was cool to wrap up the trip with those stories.
Yeah.
And the irony, did you get to meet Joe while he was here?
Yes, I did.
I know he was here, and I saw him from a distance. But I never said hi to him, which is ironic. But, that's the way it goes. Like at these conferences, it happens. You hear that story all the time. Oh, you were there too?
Yeah. How could I have missed you?
How could I have missed you?
How did we not see? I acted as tech for him for his X session that he did. So
I
was his man in the chair hitting the space bar for him. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Again, VO Atlanta is amazing. And y'all that didn't go think you have FOMO. I know there's FOMO.
Yeah.
I have FOMO problems all the time. But the people that go to VO Atlanta, there's still a lot of FOMO. Right. There's so much great stuff going on, so many things simultaneously. Yeah. I would obviously have loved to stop in and see what that was about. I did a similar thing, and I guested on another X session with Memo Salceda, because it was the Latin-speaking one, which was fun.
Yeah.
English, did I say Latin-speaking? Nobody speaks Latin anymore. Spanish-speaking Latin community voice actor breakout, and it was awesome getting to hang out with him. He was showing off the new Tri-Booth Memo.
Yes.
Which was really cool. I
think I called it the Milo last night.
The Milo.
Thank you so much, George.
So you got to meet and get to know each other better.
Man.
And we'll get some more time to really get to know each other when I'm on Chewing the Fat.
I'm looking forward to it, buddy.
Is that the whole name if you look it on the podcatchers?
Yeah, you can find it Chewing the Fat or Chewing the Fat with Big Rob. Website's chewingthefatbr.com. And that's
then
all
your-
the socials and stuff like
And then
that.
your VO site
thevoiceofrob.com, and Rob with two
with
B's.
2 B's.
Rob with two
The Voice
B's.
of
So
Rob.
thevoiceofrob.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you around, guys. George the Tech, out.
George the Tech.